Sabah everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the first developer preview of Android 12. Now, this is intended for developers, so keep in mind it is not a stable release, it's a very buggy release. But we're going to take a look and see what are some of the new things that are potentially coming into our devices with Android 12. This is TK and this is the Pixel 4a running the first developer preview of Android 12. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So what I have in front of us is the Pixel 5, and this is still running Android 11, running the latest security patch update as of February 5th. And on the left here, I have the Pixel, well, this is the 4a. So the Pixel 4a was updated again, but now we're running Android 12 Developer Preview 1. So the main difference between the two, obviously, is that this one actually is pretty much clean because part of the process of getting everything installed here requires us to unlock the bootloader on our smartphone. So first thing we'll start by saying is this. The first thing I'll say is that this is not intended for everybody. This is, again, a developer preview. It's intended for developers, so it's buggy and it's not considered to be a daily driver type of a build. So what I would recommend is for you to basically check out some of the new features and wait till the beta is available to be able to put this on your main device, as going to get this actually installed requires you to unlock the bootloader on your smartphone, and by doing so wipes all your information. So if you have a device that has a locked bootloader that is a Pixel and you want to be able to check this out, back up all your data, unlock the bootloader by going into the developer settings, jump all the way down to the bottom, we'll go about system, all the way to the bottom, and then keep pressing the build number till you're able to get developer options. Once you get into developer options under the settings tab, you need to go into developer options and go in here. There's a couple of things that we need to do. First, we need to turn on OEM unlocking. That enables us to unlock the device. And that means we basically are unlocking the bootloader, allowing us to install software like another operating system on this thing. The other thing that we also need to do is turn on USB debugging. Again, make sure you back up all your data before you do any of this stuff. And I don't really necessarily recommend you doing this on your daily driver. Once you do that, you can basically go through the setup process, and I'll give you guys some links in the description below on how to be able to actually use the online flashing tool to get this installed on your smartphone. Once you're done installing the software using the online tool, you're pretty much set. You restart the phone and you're pretty much greeted directly into the main system UI. You'll get a nice little toggle or a toast message saying that you're going to be basically logging in or using a device that's using a developer preview, so that this is not a final version of the software. The UI elements are very similar to what we've seen in the past. Unlocking the device, we'll notice that the notification buttons here are a little bit different. And what I mean by that, they actually look a little bit more rounded on the edges as opposed to more squared off or rectangular shaped here. Interacting with them obviously will give us some more information, but let's go ahead and swipe up. We'll notice first, and obviously the lock screen or the swipe unlock option looks a little bit different. The search button is still present at the bottom. Icon screen configuration is still the same. The application here that we have, which essentially is just the time and date. So let's go ahead and swipe it back. You can actually jump in directly into the notification. Everything looks pretty much the same. One thing I will say though, that launching the assistant, we'll notice that it actually launches ever so nicely on the bottom, whereas opposed to what we currently have as far as the system, it opens up the entire message. So the UI and everything in the system still works the same. It's just that the message, or at least the interaction with it, is very much sitting here at the bottom. And also the messages that come out of it also look very different. What's the weather like today? So you'll notice right there that the responses are slightly different. We now have more of a card response as opposed to what we typically have here. It opens up the entire page. If we swipe on the left, we still have access to the Google Assistant. That's pretty much the standard. Swiping up takes us into the app drawer. And of course, swiping down opens up the notification panel. Again, most of the notifications here are going to look very similar, except that they're a little bit more rounded around the edges as opposed to where they are. We also have a nice little option here to be able to snooze the notifications. So as opposed to swiping to the right, snoozing it this way, we can actually get the notification snoozing option to show up in here, and it'll show up on the notifications that are supported. We still have the aggregation between conversation, notification, and silent messages. And of course, this is mostly because I set up the device brand new. It's asking me to finish it off. We have a new toggle here that's present. It's called the reduced bright colors. And that gives us the ability of actually turning on somewhat of a toggle that reduces the brightness of the display. That's really what it is. I've already activated it here, and it is set to be at 100%. So if I activate it and then I bring it back, you'll notice it changes. Reduce bright color shortcut, and you can of course just turn it off. It is present. You are able to add it and of course customize it directly within the system UI. We have obviously the ability of using nearby sharing. We can also share now our Wi-Fi passwords using nearby sharing. So if you ever want to use that, that works very nicely. But other than that, the last thing that you'll notice obviously here, where we now actually have Android 11 running over there, it says SPP1. So Essentially, they're using the moniker S till we get the Android 12 moniker to come out later on, when it's actually available in either beta or even final release. From there, we're going to jump over to the settings, or at least the actual settings tab. We'll notice a couple of changes. First and foremost, you'll notice the search bar is now nicely rounded, sitting next to the actual icon, so depending what your image is for your profile. And it also actually have a little bit bigger, so you notice it's actually a little bit bigger. Now the home settings tab is actually available in two different options. There's the standard mode that we're looking at right now, as I mentioned, with the new rounded option. The different option is going to be called Silky Home, and that's something that we can turn on right now using ADB, and I'll give you guys a link to the article that was posted over on XDA for more information there. And as you can see right there, it looks a little bit, I would probably say more like One UI, the way we've seen it on Samsung devices, intended to be more one-handed friendly mode, meaning everything kind of drops down ever so nicely, and of course there is more of an open space above it. The UI element is definitely a testing phase. I'm not sure if this is going to be part of the final mode, but at least in the current stages, you're able to turn it on and turn it off by using an ADB command, and that is essentially turning on the Silky Home option by turning it either true or false. Very simple, but again, for me, I'm going to keep it in this format because I think overall it looks and it works the smoothest. The UI elements don't seem to be running very smoothly when it runs down to the Silky Home option. And the one thing that we'll notice when we look at the music player is obviously it's slightly ever so nicely rounded. There's those going to be nicer elements. And the ability of actually selecting options here, you'll notice that the player is slightly different. But we have the ability of obviously opening it up, media, and you can actually select the media switch layout directly between phone speaker and whatever other Bluetooth connection that we have. But we can also jump in directly into Bluetooth pairing from here, which is definitely nice. When we jump over into the settings, there's a few other changes that we'll notice. First and foremost is that there's actually a new section. So if we scroll down to the bottom here, we have a safety and emergency section. That's something that we just don't have right now. And this one kind of aggregates a certain part of the elements into a new category that Google felt like needed to have its own section. So emergency information, emergency SOS, crash detection, crisis alert, and of course wireless emergency alert are all going to be part of the safety and emergency tab, and that's going to be one of the new elemental options that we've seen here. But there's also a few other things that they've done here. If we go under the accessibility tab, we'll notice that the organization of the accessibility tab sections is actually more, you'll notice it seems like there's a lot more here on the right side with Android 11. With Android 12, it's a little bit more organized, meaning Tap for Assistant now has some of the options that were opened up here. Sound or system control, you can see them right there. And of course, vibration and haptics are all present under an aggregate menus option. So definitely a little bit more organization done there and helping us have a much more or easier way of navigating the system. You'll notice that the UI elements are also ever so nicely different, so they're more rounded as opposed to the squared option. We have obviously the same categories: network, internet, connected devices, app notifications, and of course we have the ability of actually jumping in and seeing all the different options that we've used in the past. Now under the display section, we still have dark mode, night mode, adaptive brightness. We can jump down all the way to increase touch sensitivity, of course, and of course lock screen, all the information that you want. But under style and wallpapers, we'll notice there's one new change. Under grid size, we'll notice there is normally there's the 5x5, the 4x4, the 3x3, and the 2x2. And now we actually have the ability of going between the default, which is the 5x5, 4x4, 3x3, 2x2, and a 4x5 option. And you'll notice here is a big difference between the two. You basically have a 4 across as opposed to having a 5 across. So this is the standard, it's the default that sits there. Under styles, we have again same option, the ability of customizing the different options here. We'll select it and put it in. The styles and wallpapers, widget, and home settings are actually inverted a little bit. So styles and wallpapers is sitting at the top as opposed to being at the bottom. And that gets it a little bit more closer to what we have right now, so under styles and wallpapers. You still have pretty much the same exact ones. I have an additional one here that I made as a custom one. Under wallpapers, for the most part, all of the wallpapers are exactly the same. So under Come Alive, there's still pretty much the same options that we've seen in the past. I did not notice any new ones, so we notice here all the different options that you have in there, and it seems like all of them are still present there. So hopefully we'll see some new ones with the next developer preview. Now, the next big thing that we'll notice is the ability of actually using the editor. So let's go ahead and take a quick screenshot, and we'll go ahead and open up the editor on both. Now, there is going to be the new feature of the scrolling page that's going to be able to work out much better to be able to take a long form screenshot, and that one's not available on my device yet, but I've seen it on other devices that is supported. You'll notice that the editor now has a few other options on top of the fact that we can actually mark up and of course resize. Now we have the ability of using the resize button, which is not even here, but you're still able to do this function. We also have the ability of adding new emojis, so you can actually annotate it with not only text, but also the ability of using emojis. So that's something also new that we have directly within the editor. And again, this is the standard editor built into Android 12. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys want to see what the new Easter egg is going to be. Unfortunately, it does not exist yet on the system. We do have access to that picture, which is the one I showed you guys at the beginning, and that's basically what we use for the thumbnail. But if you press on the Android S here, essentially all you're going to be getting is the same Easter egg that we have within Android 11. So here, you bring it up once, and then number 2. And here we are, once and number 2. It still says basically Android 11, but again, this is Android 12. It goes without saying that there's a lot more things that change under the hood within Android 12 that we don't necessarily get to see directly when we're looking at the UI elements. So for that, I'll give you guys a link in the description below to an article that was posted that references a lot more of the, I guess, under the hood changes within Android 12. This is a developer preview 1. It's going to be part of 3 developer previews that are going to basically transition to a beta in May. And then from May all the way through August, we're going to have 4 different beta releases available for devices, for Pixel line devices. And then at that point, transition into a full release, more than likely around the Pixel 6 launch. So that's roughly the timeline that Google shared with us. It looks promising. It definitely, hopefully we'll be able to see some more visual changes, some more optimizations. Desktop mode is still not present there. And of course, I tested it out on my Pixel 4a because this is a separate device that I don't necessarily have to worry about too much if I lose my data. Unlocking our bootloader does wipe the device, so keep that in mind. Before you try even looking at this, back up your device. And I wouldn't really recommend you using this as a daily driver. Again, if you just want to be able to check it out and then revert back, it's a simple process. Check the link in the description below to be able to download the image compatible with your Pixel device. And of course, it also includes the information on how to revert back to standard stock ROM if you want to be able to revert back to standard system. And of course, relock the bootloader if you want to be able to use any of your apps or like banking apps or anything that requires a locked bootloader. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? I know it's not necessarily overwhelming. Developer previews are not generally in that manner, but at least some of the changes that we're seeing here is that they're trying to work on the UI elements, optimizations. When it comes down to that Silky Home UI that I shared with you guys, I'm a little bit conflicted there. It kind of looks like they're taking a page from Samsung. I mean, we said the same thing when OnePlus started using that with their Android 11 update. So is it something that we're going to start seeing more OEMs using that one-handed mode where most of the settings are on the bottom of the page? It's not currently running very smoothly on the Pixel 4a. Maybe it's due to the processing power, but at least at this point, I felt like staying with the standard mode worked out a little bit better for us. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? And would you like me to cover all of the other developer previews and beta releases for our Pixel line of devices in the near future? Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next video.